What if tonight's dinner is exactly what doctors are now telling patients to eat? Long before food pyramids and supplement aisles, ancient Mediterranean kitchens were already getting this right, and researchers keep landing back in the same place. Number 13 on this list was once traded like currency between kings. Modern researchers call it one of the most antimicrobial plants ever studied, and it's shown real activity against a virus in lab tests. Number 20 was the survival food of a wilderness preacher, and it's a near-perfect blueprint for energy without the crash. 20 ancient foods, ranked by how strong the modern research actually is. Let's go. Quick disclaimer. This isn't medical advice. Talk to your doctor before changing anything, especially with a chronic condition. And before we start, if you're into this kind of thing, food history with actual receipts behind it, hit subscribe now. I'm going deeper on this stuff every week, and you don't want to miss number 13 or number 20 on the next one of these. All right. Number 1, olive oil. Start anywhere in the ancient Mediterranean. You start here. Food, trade good, lamp fuel, skin treatment, all in one. The research isn't vague on this one. Extra virgin olive oil is one of the most studied foods in nutrition science, the cornerstone of the Mediterranean diet. The compound doing the work is oleocanthal, and researchers have compared its anti-inflammatory effect to ibuprofen. But the ancient version wasn't what's on supermarket shelves today. Cold-pressed, unfiltered oil keeps more antioxidants and vitamin E. Dinner idea: a tablespoon, raw, drizzled over vegetables or bread, same as it's been for thousands of years. Number 2, raw honey. Hospitals use this in wound dressings. Not as alternative medicine, as an active treatment. Medical-grade Manuka honey has documented antimicrobial power, including against some antibiotic-resistant strains. Ancient texts already sensed honey did something. They described it as giving strength and clarity. The catch: heat destroys the enzymes responsible, so most honey on shelves today isn't doing what raw honey does. Dinner idea: raw honey drizzled over roasted vegetables or stirred into a vinaigrette. Number 3, figs. There's an enzyme in fresh figs that breaks down tissue. Not a metaphor, it's called ficin, and it's strong enough that researchers took a strange ancient practice seriously, pressing figs directly onto wounds. Fig latex shows real antimicrobial activity in lab tests. Set the wound care aside, though. The real reason to eat them is fiber figs are loaded with pectin, which feeds gut bacteria, plus magnesium and potassium. Dinner idea: fresh or dried figs alongside a savory dish. Number 4, dates. What if the energy bar is 4,000 years old? Dates were survival food across the ancient Middle East. Calorie-dense, shelf-stable, mineral-rich. The sugar hits fast, but it comes with fiber, magnesium, and B vitamins, so it doesn't crash the way refined sugar does. Here's the one researchers still can't fully explain. Multiple clinical studies found pregnant women eating dates in their final weeks had measurably smoother labor. Dinner idea: a few dates stuffed with cheese or nuts as a starter. Number 5, pomegranates. They're everywhere in ancient art as symbols of abundance. Turns out the symbolism had a reason. Pomegranates contain punicalagin, a compound found almost nowhere else in nature. In the gut, it breaks down into compounds called urolithins. Clinical trials link pomegranate juice to real drops in blood pressure and inflammation markers. Even the rind, usually tossed, has been brewed into tea for digestive complaints for generations. Dinner idea: pomegranate seeds scattered over a grain or vegetable dish. Number 6, lentils. There's a famous ancient story about someone trading away everything for a bowl of lentil stew. Dramatic, until you realize lentils were never a lesser food, dense, filling, and they stored for years dried. 18 grams of plant protein per cooked cup, plus iron, folate, and magnesium. Population research on the world's longest-lived communities keeps finding the same pattern. Legumes, constantly. And lentils have a low glycemic index for a carb-heavy food, steady energy, no spike. Dinner idea. Lentils slow cooked with cumin and olive oil, barely changed in thousands of years. Number 7, barley. This is the one with an actual regulatory stamp on it. Barley was never a luxury grain. It fed laborers, soldiers, sailors. Turns out, the common food was doing something remarkable. Barley has the highest beta-glucan content of any grain. The FDA and the European Food Safety Authority have both formally approved a health claim. Beta-glucan from barley lowers LDL cholesterol based on meta-analyses of human clinical trials. That's a rare thing, a regulator putting its name behind a claim this specific. There's an ancient Greek barley water, pitizane, that physicians prescribed to the sick over 2,000 years ago. Hippocratic texts call it a recovery food. And I want to flag this one specifically. Of everything on this list, barley has the strongest, most airtight modern research behind it. This isn't researchers found a link. This is a regulator putting its name on the claim. Dinner idea. A simple barley soup made almost exactly the way it has been for 2,000 years. Number 8. Ancient wheat, inkhorn, and emmer. When old texts mention wheat, they don't mean modern wheat. They mean einkorn and emmer older varieties, genetically different from the high-yield wheat bred in the 20th century. Einkorn has a simpler genetic structure, a different gluten makeup some people tolerate better, and research shows higher antioxidants with a lower glycemic response. The traditional prep, slow-fermented sourdough breaks down compounds that make grains harder to digest. Dinner idea. A dense einkorn sourdough alongside dinner. Bread before industrial milling changed everything. Number 9. Grapes. 20 years of aging research keeps circling back to this fruit's skin. Grape skins and seeds contain resveratrol, quercetin, and anthocyanins, polyphenols, studied heavily for cardiovascular and anti-inflammatory effects. Resveratrol activates sirtuins, proteins linked to cellular repair. The vine was also one of the most symbolically loaded plants in the ancient Mediterranean. Turns out, the substance backs up the symbolism. Dinner idea. Whole grapes, skin on, alongside a cheese course. Number 10. Wine. This one needs a straight answer, so here it is. This isn't a reason to start drinking, if you don't already. It's on the list because of how specifically the ancient world treated it sparingly, diluted with food. Diluted wine showed real antimicrobial activity against certain pathogens in lab studies, which mattered enormously before water treatment existed. Separately, cardiovascular research has looked at moderate red wine intake and the resveratrol in the skins. Though researchers still debate how much benefit comes from the wine versus the overall diet around it. Okay, we're halfway, and I'm not going to lie to you. The next 10 get good. Number 13 is the one I teased at the start, the plant that's been shown to fight a virus in a lab. Number 14 was valuable enough that people paid it as tax. And number 20 might be the single most complete survival food on this entire list. 2 ingredients, no kitchen required. Stick around. Number 11, fish. This might be one of the most important dietary patterns in human history. Fish was everyday protein for ancient coastal communities. Fatty fish, sardines, anchovies, small lake, and sea fish are among the richest natural sources of omega-3s, EPA, and DHA, fats your body can't make on its own. Regular fish consumption is linked to lower cardiovascular disease and slower cognitive decline in long-term studies. The ancient prep grilled simply over fire preserved those fats far better than modern deep frying does. Dinner idea: a whole small fish, grilled simply. Number 12. Goat's milk. When ancient Mediterranean texts say milk, they almost certainly mean goat's milk, a genuinely different food from modern cow's milk. Smaller fat globules, a different protein structure. Some research suggests easier digestion for certain people. Traditionally fermented into yogurt or simple cheese, it delivers beneficial bacteria naturally. Dinner idea: fresh goat cheese or yogurt is part of dinner. Number 13. Hyssop. Here it is, the one traded like currency between kings. For centuries, hyssop showed up in ancient purification rituals and got treated as purely symbolic. Then, researchers actually analyzed it. Hyssop contains carvacrol and thymol, the same antimicrobial compounds found in oregano and thyme, two of the most studied natural antiseptics that exist. Lab studies have found hyssop extracts show real antibacterial and antiviral activity, including activity against herpes simplex virus in vitro. Dinner idea: a small amount of fresh hyssop as a seasoning, the way you'd use thyme or oregano. Number 14. Cumin. Ancient texts describe cumin as carefully tithed. You don't tithe things that don't matter. It's been used medicinally for at least 4,000 years across the Middle East, India, and North Africa, specifically for digestion and blood sugar. Cumin contains cuminaldehyde, with documented antimicrobial effects. Clinical studies found it can modestly improve fasting, blood sugar, and insulin sensitivity in people with type 2 diabetes. 3 grams covers roughly 20% of daily iron needs. Dinner idea: toasted whole cumin seeds stirred into lentils or a stew. Number 15. Coriander seed. It was found in Tutankhamun's tomb. Coriander seed has a documented medicinal history across Egyptian, Persian, and Mediterranean cultures, used traditionally for digestion and anxious nerves. Animal studies have found coriander seed extract has real calming effects in certain models. Its compounds, like linalool, show antimicrobial activity in lab studies. There's also early, still preliminary research into helping mobilize heavy metals from tissue. Dinner idea: ground coriander in a spice blend for roasted vegetables or stew. 5 left. And number 16 is the one that gets me every time I read it. A food people wept over losing. Number 16. Garlic. There's a striking ancient account of people in the wilderness weeping over the foods they missed. Garlic was on that list. Once you know what garlic actually does, the grief makes sense. Garlic is one of the most studied foods in nutritional medicine. Allison released When Garlic is Crushed has documented broad-spectrum antimicrobial activity. Clinical trials found regular garlic consumption modestly reduces colds, blood pressure, and LDL cholesterol in some populations. Allicin is volatile and breaks down with heat, so raw, freshly crushed garlic carries the most punch. Dinner idea: raw, crushed garlic stirred into a dressing right before serving. Number 17. Onions. Onions were valuable enough that laborers were partly paid in them across every class in the ancient world. Modern research tells us why. Onions are one of the richest sources of quercetin, a polyphenol studied for anti-inflammatory and antihistamine effects. They're also loaded with inulin-type fibers, prebiotics that feed beneficial gut bacteria. Long before anyone understood the microbiome, diets built around onions, garlic, and leeks were already feeding it. Dinner idea: raw red onion in a salad for the quercetin, cooked onion elsewhere in the meal for the fiber. Number 18. Almonds. Almond imagery shows up repeatedly in ancient art, often tied to renewal, one of the first trees to blossom in spring. The nutrition backs the symbolism. 1 ounce packs a large share of daily vitamin E, plus magnesium, which supports hundreds of enzymatic reactions in the body. Clinical trials link regular almond consumption to lower LDL cholesterol and better gut microbiome diversity, partly because some of the fat in almonds isn't fully absorbed and feeds gut bacteria directly instead. Dinner idea: raw or lightly roasted almonds tossed into a grain dish. Number 19. Pistachios. Ancient accounts describe pistachios chosen specifically for people of high status. Not a casual snack, but something genuinely valuable. Pistachios are uniquely high in lutein and zeaxanthin, carotenoids studied for eye health, and they pack more potassium than most other nuts. Research has found they boost certain beneficial gut bacteria more than most other nuts tested, alongside measurable improvements in blood sugar control. Dinner idea: pistachios crushed over a vegetable or grain dish. Number 20. Carob, the one saved for last. There's long-standing debate over an ancient account of a desert-dwelling figure who survived on locusts and wild honey. Many scholars argue it likely means the pods of the carob tree, long known as locust beans. Carob pods are roughly half natural sugar, but they come packed with fiber, up to 40% by dry weight, most of it insoluble. That's why carob has traditionally regulated digestion for both diarrhea and constipation. It also contains condensed tannins with documented antimicrobial activity. Carob powder was used in some European hospitals for childhood diarrhea before modern pharmaceuticals took over. Paired with wild honey, natural sugar for energy, fiber for digestion, antimicrobial compounds for protection, a complete survival diet. 2 ingredients. No kitchen required. Dinner idea: carob powder stirred into a dessert or drizzled as syrup. In closing, 20 foods, thousands of years of use between them. This doesn't mean ancient people had it all figured out, and it doesn't mean you should toss your medication for a bowl of lentils. It means people were paying close attention to what made them feel better, long before anyone had a lab to explain why. And it's strange how often modern research keeps landing in the same place. None of this replaces your doctor, especially if you're managing a real condition. If this ancient wisdom has impacted you, make sure to subscribe, give this video a like, and tell me in the comments what caught your attention the most. Was it the ancient grains, the powerful herbs, or the fact that wine made the list? I read every single comment, and I genuinely love to hear which insight surprised you the most.